What's up everybody?
Grounded
2 just dropped patch 0.4.2, and while at first glance it might look like a small update, I actually think this could end up being one of the most important patches we've had so far, not because it adds a new creature, not because it adds a new biome, and not because it introduces some game-changing weapon, but because it directly targets the biggest issue players have been talking about for weeks, and that is performance. Today I'm going to break down everything in the update, talk about what it means for existing players, and discuss why this could be setting the stage for the massive Into the Abyss update arriving on August the 11th. The biggest complaint since launch. Let's be honest, Grounded 2 has been incredibly fun so far. The exploration is fantastic, creature designs are absolutely amazing, building is addictive as well, and there's already a surprising amount of content for an early access game. But if we spent any amount of time in the community, you've probably seen the same complaint over and over again: performance. Players have been reporting stutters, frame drops, random hitching while exploring, and sometimes major performance issues around larger player bases. Personally, I think it's one of the biggest challenges for a game like Grounded 2. The more players build, the more resources exist in the world, the more systems the game has to manage at once. So seeing the developers focus on optimization this early is actually a really good sign. So then guys, what did they actually change? The biggest technical change in this patch is something called streaming range. Now that sounds complicated, but here's a simple explanation. When you're running around the park, the game is constantly loading and unloading parts of the world around you. According to the patch notes, they've reduced the amount of world that gets loaded at one time. In theory, that means less memory usage and less strain on your system, and fewer moments where the game suddenly freezes while trying to load a bunch of stuff. This is the kind of update players might not notice immediately in screenshots or trailers, but they'll definitely feel while playing. And honestly, while your base might suddenly be covered in plants, now here's the part that's going to surprise a lot of players. Because of these optimization changes, almost all harvestable resources in the game are being regenerated. That means grass, possibly weeds, plant resources, basically everything you've already cleared out. If you spent dozens of hours building a huge base, you could log in and find plants growing straight through your floors. Now before you panic, this isn't a bug, it's an intentional side effect of the changes. And while it's definitely going to be annoying for some players, I actually think most people are going to look at this as free resources, especially new players. The Omni-Tool solution. Thankfully, the devs anticipated this problem. To help players deal with this returning resources, they've changed the Omni-Tool. Now any resource that grows through a player-built structure can be destroyed in a single hit while you're standing on that structure. Honestly, this is probably the smartest solution they could have come up with. Imagine having to chop down hundreds of pieces of grass manually every time a major update rolls out. That would be a nightmare. Instead, you can basically walk around your base and clear everything out in seconds, which sounds awesome. This is happening again in August. Here's something a lot of players might have missed. The patch notes specifically mention that this process will happen again when Into the Abyss update launches on August 11th. That tells me something interesting. It suggests the devs aren't done with optimization just yet. In fact, it sounds like they're making major back-end changes to prepare for future content. And honestly, that's exactly what I want to hear. I'd rather they solve performance problems now rather than wait until the game becomes much larger and harder to optimize later. Crash fixes could be a bigger deal than you think. The patch notes also mention that roughly 35% of the crashes seen in version 0.4.1 should be fixed. Now that's actually a huge number. Think about how many different situations can cause crashes in a game this size. Fixing over a third of the known crashes in a single patch is pretty significant. For some players, this might be the difference between crashing multiple times per session and not crashing at all. And that's a kind of improvement that can completely change how a game feels. AXL finally gets fixed. There are also a couple of bug fixes. The biggest one is probably AXL. Apparently there was an AXL could get stuck mid-fight and roll forever. For those that don't know what AXL is, it's just like a boss creature if you haven't played the game before, which sounds funny until it happens during your own playthrough. Thankfully that's now fixed, so if you avoided that encounter because of bugs, it could be a much smoother experience now. Builders love this fix. The other fix targets the half interior corner stairs. If you're primarily a builder, you've probably already heard about this issue. Stairs were occasionally changing positions, rotating into weird angles. Nothing is more frustrating than spending hours making something look perfect, only to log in and discover your build has decided to redesign itself. Thankfully, that should now be resolved. What this means for Grounded 2's future. For me, the most important part of this patch isn't actually any individual change. It's the message behind it. The devs are clearly prioritizing stability and performance. That tells me they're thinking long term. They're preparing the game for larger updates, bigger worlds, more creatures, more building options, and hopefully a smoother experience for everyone. That's exactly what you want to see from an early access title. So final thoughts then, guys. Overall, patch 0.4.2 might not be the most exciting update on paper, but it could easily end up being one of the most important. So you have performance improvements, crash fixes, quality of life upgrades, and preparation for the massive Into the Abyss update coming on August 11th. If these optimizations work as intended, a lot of players are going to have a much smoother experience moving forward. But now I want to hear from you guys. Have you noticed any performance improvements since installing the update? Did your base get invaded by grass? And what are you hoping to see when Into the Abyss arrives next month? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Grounded 2 adventure. Stay tiny, survivors. See ya.